On Veterans Day, we honor those who have worn the uniform, who have borne the battle, who have stood to watch, and whose ranks have formed the mighty wall of flesh and blood, bravery and devotion that has defended our freedom for 250 years.
President Trump marking this Veterans Day at Arlington National Cemetery. Tonight, we thought it was an appropriate moment, Veterans Day, to spotlight those helping our troops after they return from service. Here with me now, John Miller. He is the president and CEO of America's VetDogs, which helps our veterans when they return home. Sitting beside him, an absolutely gorgeous 3-year-old lab named Luke. John, tell me your story, and how does Luke and other service dogs like Luke fit into it?
Sure. So America's VetDogs works in all 50 states to provide service dogs for veterans and first responders. Luke here is one of our spokesdogs, actually. You know, Luke is a representative of all the different services, that America's VetDogs can provide and the different tasks, that the dogs can do. We had the great fortune of working with former President George H.W. Bush and provided him his service dog, Sully, a number of years ago. And the amount of good that did to shine a light on the services that are available, not just for the president, but all veterans. So we're very happy to be here today on Veterans Day. What do
dogs do, John, uniquely that humans, despite their best efforts, can't do?
I think it's just a genuine, instinct and genuine love, right? Unconditional love. And, our dogs are really, some of the finest trained. Luke may take a little snooze on us here. He's had a little bit of a long day today. But he's one of the finest trained dogs in the country right now.
And how do the dogs that you deal with, John, and your organization get into your system? How are they dealt with first so people know what they're getting when they receive a service dog?
Sure. So the application is a very simple application. Just go to vetdogs.org to apply. We ask questions about your lifestyle, if you're working, what you're going to utilize the dog for, and really try to mitigate a disability. And then the dogs can be trained up to 30 different tasks, to do that. One of the most popular tasks, or one of the most requested tasks, is something called nightmare interruption, where we teach the dog to sense a veteran who's having a night terror and to gently wake them up and get them out of that moment.
Wow, go into that a little bit more, John. That sounds like a very particular kind of skill, one that I imagine has evolved in your awareness of, and then you had to create ways for which you could, quote unquote, train dogs to help out with.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of repetition. All of our training is what we call positive reinforcement, so it's food motivated. So it's repetition, and the dogs are getting treats and rewards each time they do a task. Nightmare interruption, we try to teach the dogs, to nudge on the hip or on the side to try to get the veteran out of that moment. And then ultimately, they get to clear their heads and, maybe start fresh.
And what do you hear back from vets 6 months, a year, 2 years after having a service dog?
Yeah, it's a complete, nonstop progression. The longer that people have the dog, the more they acclimate to their family. And it becomes a member of the family, even though the dog is specifically trained for the veteran. He's really helping, unify the whole family. And really, when you look at it, people come to us sometimes when they're in a very dark place. Some, have suicidal thoughts. And ultimately, we are in the suicide prevention business, and it's very serious what we do, but the dogs really are an incredible way, to put families and lives back together.
John, talk to me about the supply and the demand curve.
Sure. So, since Sully, the demand far outweighs the supply. And we're working diligently throughout our organization to increase our capacity to do more. We're looking to grow our ability to do more dogs by 25% over the next few years. And ultimately, we want to be able to get the word out to every veteran who needs a dog. So I'd encourage every veteran who thinks they may need a dog to go to vetdogs.org and apply today.
And John, I got about 35 seconds. You guys have been at this for a long time. Very briefly summarize your origin story.
Sure. So Guide Dog Foundation really started America's VetDogs about 25 years ago at this point almost. And the organization saw a need beyond vision impairment to help veterans. Mobility, and now certainly probably the most requested task is PTSD mitigation.
That's great stuff. And Luke, as I said, a 3-year-old lab. If he's taking a nap, just know, John, that's not your fault. That's not the long day's fault. I have that effect on most living beings. John Miller, I appreciate the time. Thanks so very much, and happy Veterans Day.